Hello and welcome to the Monday, July 27, 2009 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. I want to start by calling this meeting to order. Are we all in order? Okay. Let's start with our City Council staff report from Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk.
Thank you and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. Just a thank you for responding, those of you who have, regarding the informational meetings that fall near Thanksgiving and Christmas. At this point, it looks like they will be canceled. That has been kind of the tradition the last few years, just to allow people to meet their own family and travel abroad or stay at home. But anyway, those two informational meetings have often been canceled, and it looks like that will be the trend as well this year. In addition, I just want to give you an update. As you know, in 2009, the legislative session made some changes to campaign finance ordinance, and basically to address some of the ballot question committee issues. And so working this last week and speaking with leadership about this project is just kind of bringing those changes to our local ordinance. There are in particular 4 sections that have substantial revisions, which will close the loophole for creating that shell corporation, which was created on the state level for the purposes of keeping the names of the ballot question committee donors secret. And so there are some changes in state law this session in Pier, and we want to incorporate those into our ordinance as well. And then there was one section added which mirrors state law, which would be to clarify the termination statement for public officials. As many of you know, are out there, 3 council members will be ending their terms next May, so that would come into play. And then also, and finally, I did hear back from a few of you, but I just wanted to remind those of you who may have an interest in it. The state law recently set a cap of $50 a day for the daily fine when people are not in compliance with their finance forms with the city. But the state law set a cap of $3,000, so it was not to exceed $3,000 per violation with a $50 a day fine. And I've heard back from several of you who want to go ahead and mirror state law with that. If those of you who have concerns who would like to not do that, please go ahead and let me know later on today. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Deborah? Seeing none. Anybody from the mayor's office here? Don't see anybody. How about a report from the audit committee? I would say there's no report. Fiscal committee?
We will have a meeting right after our informational meeting to talk about 2 different items. One is a discretionary formula that's been proposed by the Home Builders Association, and the other is a follow-up with the Chamber and the Development Foundation on a study that they're undertaking.
Very good. Any questions of Gerald? Okay, how about our land use committee?
Well, Land Use Committee, our next meeting will actually be in September. We will not have one in August, so stay tuned for September.
Any questions of Kermit? All right, how about Public Services Committee?
I'm going to let Kenny talk because he's going to take care of the meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we'll have a meeting with interested parties in deregulation on taxi and wheelchair services here in Sioux Falls.
Where's that meeting at?
That will be held here at the Carnegie.
Okay. Any questions of Kenny? Anybody? All right, I guess the City Council open discussion. Any comments from anybody? We usually get our public service announcement from Dee, but she's gone today.
Well, I'll put in one then.
Yeah, one from Ken.
Yesterday we started the Girls 16 and Under National Fastpitch Tournament here in Sioux Falls. The weather has been great all weekend. The air show was fantastic. A lot of things are happening here in Sioux Falls. I ask the citizens to please be patient out there on the roads. We have a lot of new people here in the city that are trying to find their way around.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Vernon?
Just one. I don't know how many get Governing Magazine, but Sioux Falls Paratransit was mentioned in that. Did you see that, Deborah? And maybe I didn't bring my copy of the magazine with, but if anyone wants it, you usually get one in the office here, right? So you might be interested in reading that.
Well, just a quick question, was it complimentary or was it I guess?
It was sort of a double-edged sword. It talked about, the story was about the expense of paratransit services, but it in some ways complimented Sioux Falls because among cities our size, it was we're on the more affordable side, even at $25 a ride. But it just was talking about the difficulty in city governments trying to continue to pay those fees. But it was a well-done article, and it leads talking about Sioux Falls.
Great. Bob Litz?
I guess I just wanted to comment that Saturday evening, late Saturday or early Saturday evening, it's kind of one of my customs to get on my bicycle, and I like to cruise through downtown and go down by the falls and then find my way back. But I did that this time. But, Saturday was a very, very busy day for Sioux Falls, and there was a lot of things going on. I think there were 2 Harley-Davidson fundraiser things. One of them was out at Borrowed Bucks, and then the other one was out at that Last Chance place on West 12th Street, I believe it is, in the T. Ellis Road. A lot of people were at that, and then downtown they had a block, something blocked off, and there was a fundraiser. And I apologize because I don't know what that was, but the entire block, they had a band down there. There were hundreds of people down there. Down the street farther to the north, right at the start of Phillips to the Falls, where up down to the Falls is going to be the Irish Fest was going on, and there was a lot of people down there. And I continued on down to the Falls, and I'll bet there was 500 or 600 people down at the Falls too. So Saturday night was quite an evening for downtown Sioux Falls. The place was loaded up pretty good. And I really enjoy seeing that the city kind of come back to life down there with a lot of people in it. And so I just wanted to say that because I know we do some efforts towards rehabilitating downtown that get a little controversial sometime, but apparently some things are paying off. So.
Very good. Anything else? All right, we'll move into our presentation with Gene Roanhorst, giving us a financial update, monthly update.
Good afternoon. We'll be talking about the June financial report at this time. Got a few things to talk about this time, or just things to draw your attention to. The first thing is on page 1 of the general fund. When you look at the unreserved fund balance, our budget, we have the policy of 25%. We're actually sitting at 35% right now. And also on the budgeted our policy for our cash balance is at 11%, and we're at 33%. So we're pretty liquid right now with our property taxes and that coming in. The other thing I'd like to point out was this June is halfway through the year, and if you look at the general fund, the revenue line where it says $52 million, we've actually gathered about 45% of our revenue for the year in the general fund. Then if you go down and look at the capital or at the expenditure situation, we've expended about 44% of our planned expenditures for the year. So notwithstanding that our revenue is slowing, we've got the expenses under control also, so we should be okay for the year without any issues. Going over to the sales tax on the second penny on page 2, couple of things, and we'll talk about it. Might as well talk about it now. The revenue numbers for sales tax for the month of June are just plain meaningless. As I reported in a short note to you, the state cut off the remittance of sales taxes about 4 days early from what they normally do, and the cutoff was done in part of the process of their year end. The city's on a June 30 year end, the city's on a December 31 year end. And they cut that off, they changed the cutoff date, and what it amounted to is the last 4 days of reporting was not shipped to us, and so it cut the number down and just made it meaningless. What I can tell you is we got it checked about the middle of July, and it was a big one. We don't know, though, how much is June and how much is July, so we really couldn't do much about it. We did a little creative accounting with it. We looked back over the last 4 years to see kind of how that receipt for the month of June behaved. And it looks like if we've received the right amount of money in June, that we would have been at about 1%. Now, what else I can tell you is we got the last check for the month of July. No, we didn't get the check. We got the advice that it's coming. We'll have the money either tomorrow or Wednesday. We can't really break it down until we actually get the money. Then they send a report that breaks it down between, there's several different groupings in there. So we'll be getting that to you, and I can tell you that's a pretty good sized check too. So it's looking promising through the month of July. Then that our sales tax should be in pretty good shape. But and hopefully we won't have this kind of event again. That was done because of year end.
Gene, it just seems like, why is the state such a black hole when it comes to getting us this kind of information? It just makes no sense to me.
And we're not alone.
What are your communications with them? Is there anything that they tell you about why this happens?
Well, this particular one, I did some research on. I called here to get to the Secretary of Revenue for the state. He was not available. His lieutenant was available, and his lieutenant said, "Well, gee, that's the first I've heard about this issue." He said, "Well, we're short a bunch of money. We know we're short a bunch of money, and I'm going to have a city council that's going to want some explanation. You better do some digging around." It took them about 2 days, and they came up with the explanation that this cutoff at year end is what caused it. So the process of cutting off your reporting early is not uncommon in the accounting world. That's very typical. It's just that in this case, when they did that cutoff, it lopped the 4 heaviest days of collection of taxes off of June, and it essentially moved it to July. I don't know how they're going to deal with that from their reporting purposes, because right now they have a lot more revenue in fiscal year, I don't know, what would that be, 2010? Fiscal year 2010, the state just moved a bunch of money from one year to the next. And I'm sure that was purely erroneous. But
you indicate that we're not alone. Have you talked to other finance officers that are struggling with reporting to their commissions or councils as well?
In the conversations that I've had, there doesn't seem to be the same level of concern that we have about it, and the same level of urgency that, gee, would be nice to know what's going on. But this is not a new issue.
Right.
The Municipal League has been doing some digging around on it. Not that I know that there's a lot of results coming out of it. We've just not been successful in figuring out the process. We did make progress this year in that we finally got or received a report that will tell us what days we can expect and where the cutoffs are at. But that doesn't help all that much.
Bob, go ahead.
I'd like to give another example of that, Vernon. A few years ago, when I was working with the Home Builders Association, we had some questions about excise tax, and they could not tell us how much of it was commercial, how much it was remodeled, how much it was residential, how much it was recycled tax money, as in the event if you build a school, because you're recycling tax money to pay the excise tax on it. They couldn't seem to come up with those numbers for us, and we were mystified about that a little bit. They could tell you if you owed them or not, but they couldn't come up with who paid in what. We found that a little incredulous, but that's what they claim. So I understand where Gene's coming from on this area. You go talk to them, and it's very frustrating sometimes to get a straight answer.
Well, we've not been successful in solving the issue at this point. One other thing I'd like to point out for you on page 2, in the budget status column over it says arterial streets, 0.08. You'll note that so far year to date, this would be through the end of June, again, we've collected $1.1 million in the second penny sales tax, or the 0.08 that we have in the sales tax now. And at the same time, we've collected about $48,000 in platting fees. That would be part of the arterial streets program.
Gene, can I ask you about that arterial streets? We're also getting money from the water, is that right?
Well,
I'm trying to remember that other money source.
The whole arterial streets program not only has the reconstruction of the road, but it has the reconstruction, as I understand, well, I know it does, of the underground sewer and water plays a role in some of this. And so some of the money for the Arterial Streets program is going to replace water and sewer pipes, and that's in there also.
Where at exactly, though?
They will be, the water and sewer will be found.
Just in the water and sewer there.
They will be found in the enterprise accounts, yes. I don't have a separate line item for that in there, but that's where it goes.
Okay.
Then, talking about the enterprise funds on page 7, you'll note in the public parking column, we show that our cash flow from operations was a negative $2 million. That's not accurate. The error got caught later on. The true number for the adjustments from operating to a cash basis and also reflecting what actually happened. As you recall, we paid off the bonds for the parking ramp on the 8th Street ramp, I think it is, over here. Well, it got put on the wrong line. It should have been put down on a line titled Financing Debt Activities. And where there's $65,000, that real number should have been $2,823,000, and those numbers up above then change accordingly. So cash flows from operating on the parking ramps and parking enterprise fund actually was a positive $669,000 instead of a negative $2,087,000. And that was just, like I say, when we paid off the bonds that got put on the wrong line. And then the last thing I think probably to point out, if you go to page 16, it's the report of our outstanding debt. That's not outstanding and authorized. The thing I want to draw to your attention, under authorized not issued amounts, if you look at that column, you go right down just a little ways there, and there's $18,500,000 and $38 million. Those two are authorized. The $18.5 million is the quality of life bond 2, and then the $38 million is the storm drainage, not storm drainage, the levees and flood protection improvements on that, and they're added to this time. And also, when you go down, if you look in the left-hand column where it says business type, we're talking about revenue there. You'll see that's gone to 0 now. That is the payoff of the parking ramp bonds. So that'll drop out of this report going forward. Other than that, we're still continuing to hold back the 5% that we've talked about at length. It's going to be interesting to see how the sales tax turns out with the month of July. Now, I think we'll have a pretty good handle on what's going to happen going forward. So, if there's any other questions, I'll try and answer them.
Anything for Gene? All right, Gene, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to a close. Any other comments? Any other questions from anybody? Discussions? Seeing none, I guess this meeting is adjourned.
Yeah. Okay,